Greetings, my fellow freedom-loving sovereign thinkers. Thank you for tuning to the L3 podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangroves of South Florida. And today's date is Thursday, March 5th, 2020. This day in history, believe it or not, around 250 years ago, the Boston Massacre happened. You could say that's one of the pinpoints of the War of Independence. Yeah, so when it comes to tyranny, things do backfire. It's always essential to know this little history. Mr. Tux, he was a black man too, a free black person. Got shot. Something that the government schools don't want you to know. There's always going to be differences and all that good stuff. But when governmental tyrants use force, that's considered an act of war on its people. The prelude, to be exact. If you study history, even after that, same thing happens multiple places. Even with the World War I veterans, want to get their severance pay, and they got attacked by the military. They said MacArthur, even Patton were involved in that. I know some people say, oh, they're just doing as they told. No. We can even go further with the Civil Rights Movement. Very similar. Even Wounded Knee before that. The government knows best. Hurting the Native Americans. That's why, if you go on my Facebook page, or you have my hashtag, Demonic Resistance, it stands for Defy All Forms of Tyranny. And of course, you got your knuckleheads out there, believe certain liberties for certain people shouldn't be allowed. The rhetorical despotism. Emulate the ones they despise, such as certain subversive groups, say neo-Nazis, white power, black power. It don't matter. Take away their rights, as long as you don't harm others. You create a president that could fall on you. And people with that attitude or nature believe in that despotism on certain people. It will blow back in your faces, and don't come complain to me. Mark my words on that. Thomas Paine will back me up 110%. Sometimes, like I said, I get inspired by individuals like that. Don't have to get mad. Feel sorry for them more. In other words, very disappointed. All this great information is out there, and they don't want to take the initiative to look at it. They really get it from their nickel and dime sites. You know what I'm talking about. I always mark days like this. It's the Boston Massacre. And don't forget Waco as well. The Waco Massacres. People still want to push for push firearm prohibitions and all that. They're part of the problem. They hate liberty too. They have a despotic fetish. That's the damn truth. Prove me wrong if you dare. Anyone out there. Please. Better back it up with facts. Not pretentious words. Just trying to decide what I want to do today. I'm at Stash, located at 109 Southwest 2nd Avenue in the heart of Fort Lauderdale, which is adjacent with Revolution Live in America's backyard. Spring break is happening down here, so you got a bunch of glamour kids. Not all, but glamour kids believe the world should revolve around them. Don't get me wrong, there's some good people from these groups that come down here as well. I chat with them all the time. You get your intellects and you got your posers. What else is new? It's all ethical indeed. Speaking of a poser, I want to talk about one which came out yesterday. Everyone's wigging out about this guy, Bernie Sanders. Of course, Bloomberg's out, Warren's out. There are all these clowns now supporting the New World Order hack like Joe Biden. Yep, a New World Order butt boy indeed. Not afraid to say it. Talk about battle of the established candidates once again. You see this cycle? You see this pattern, folks? However, it looks like Bernie Sanders is still gonna keep pushing away, keep plugging away, which I could give him some credit on that. But as a freedom lover, he's not one of those at all. So, this one came out from the Epoch Times yesterday, March 4th. It says here, Bernie praises Cuba. Will he emulate what he has long admired? It is by Trevor Loudon. As it reads here, Democratic presidential candidate Senator Bernie Sanders from Vermont addresses immigrant rights organization at a Unity Freedom Presidential Forum in Pasadena, California on March 31st, 2019. Commentary. Nobody should have been surprised when presidential candidate Bernie Sanders recently praised Cuban literacy program. Sanders, a lifelong Marxist, never met a revolution he didn't like. Seeing the good side of Marxism comes naturally to Sanders. Marxists are students of history. They take the long view. Yes, in the short term, socialism can produce misery and death on a huge scale. But in the long run, they're sowing the seeds of a great new society, a utopia and of endless bounty and opportunity for all. Yes, hand me respect, please. I will lick the boots of the tyrant. It's just an example of what you're observing. You have folks coming by here laughing. They're doing coffee. What does it matter if hundreds of thousands or millions die in the process? The individual is nothing. It is good of the collective that counts. Good example by Death by Government by R.J. Roma. You should check it out. In an interview on CBS News 60 Minutes, Sanders described what he saw as two sides to the regime of Cuba's Fidel Castro. We're very opposed to the authoritarian nature of Cuba, but it's unfair to simply say everything is bad. When Fidel Castro came into office, what he did? He had a massive literacy program. Is that a bad thing? Even though Fidel Castro didn't? Yes, Comrade Sanders, it is a bad thing. A very bad thing. A legitimate literacy program would normally be a good thing. Literacy is an essential tool for all who aspire to both liberty and prosperity. But that was far from the Cuban Communist Party's purpose. Fidel Castro didn't seek liberty and prosperity for his people. He sought slavery and control. According to the now declassified CIA intelligence report, NIE 85-62, the situation and prospect in Cuba from March 21st, 1962. Before the revolution, Cuba enjoyed a relatively high literacy rate. For all his faults, Batista had been a notable founder of rural schools. With great fanfare, however, the Castro regime undertook to eradicate illiteracy in Cuba and named 1961 the year of alphabetization. Universities and secondary schools were closed. The students and others were turned into literacy brigades and set forth to alphabetize the illiterate. The operation served three political purposes. A, to organize, indoctrinate, and inspire the literacy brigaders. B, to gratify the alphabetized and make them accessible to regime propaganda. And C, to make a propaganda impact throughout illiteracy-ridden Latin America. Some illiterates prove recalcitrant, but in general, the operation was successful in achieving these purposes. So Castro's communist program was far from altruistic. Its purpose was not to uplift the people, but to make them more comfortable and to encourage the spread of revolution across Latin America. Sanders and his wife Jane visited Cuba in 1989 and tried to meet with Fidel Castro. That couldn't be arranged, so instead they met with the mayor of Havana and other officials. The trip was organized by the Center for Cuban Studies, a pro-Castro group based in New York. When he returned to Vermont, Sanders reported that Cuba had solved some very important problems, like hunger and homelessness, according to the Daily Beast. I did not see a hungry child. I did not see any homeless people, he told the Burlington Free Press. Cuba today not only has free health care, but very high quality health care. Even Cuban health care serves a revolutionary purpose. Cuban doctors are serving in the third world countries all over the world as ambassadors for the communist regime. Venezuela has thousands of them, all loyal servants of the Maduro government and the Cuban Communist Party. After the anti-communist president Jair Bolsonaro came to power in Brazil in 2018, Cuba withdrew 8,300 doctors from the country. Cuba's Latin American Medical School, ALAM, provides scholarship to 10,000 low-income students from Africa, Asia, and the Americas, who make a commitment to work in underserved communities at home. Several Americans have also earned their medical degrees at ALAM, courtesy of the Cuban workers. Many of them are communists or sons and daughters of the U.S. Communist Party members. What kind of return does the Cuban government demand for its investment? Before he took power, Fidel Castro repeatedly told foreign journalists some variation of this meme. This is not communism or Marxism in our ideas. Our political philosophy is representative democracy and social justice. Funny about that, because if you read the Cuban Constitution, they support freedom of expression in a socialist society. However, anything that's considered threatening can shut you down or throw you in the cell or have you arrested. Something to think about. All you gotta do is read the Cuban Constitution in those areas. I recommend folks go to constituteproject.org, and they're a good site. They got a list of all the countries with the constitutions, and you can read it for yourselves. If you've got to verify it, do it. Get it translated, do it. It's got technology, take advantage of it, folks. I will proceed. After President Trump recently called Sanders a communist, Senator told Fox News, obviously, I'm not a communist. The difference between my socialism and Trump's socialism is I believe the government should help working families, not billionaires. Sanders is always careful to add the qualifier democratic when he calls himself a socialist. But the definition of democracy means something very different to a Marxist than it does to most American voters. To a communist, democracy means the will of the people. And who represents that will? Why, it's the Communist Party, of course. Democracy to a Marxist-Leninist simply means Communist Party rule. Pure democracy is unchallenged Communist Party rule. Remember, democracy means a majority plus one. 50% plus one, so majority rule. And prove to me, anyone tell me, can show me in the U.S. Constitution, we have a democracy. We're a democracy, a form of government. Just prove that to me. You can't. And don't give me your defense mechanized rhetoric, please. Even Sanders, though, wasn't always willing to use the S word. In 1976, Sanders told the student newspaper, the Vermont Cynic, "I myself do not use the word socialism because people have been brainwashed into thinking socialism automatically means slave labor camp, dictatorship, and a lack of freedom of speech." Well, it actually does, Comrade Sanders. Given enough time, but we don't want to frighten the voters, do we? The difference between Fidel Castro's representative democracy and social justice and full-blown communism was about 3 years. Only when he had fully consolidated his power and had executed, jailed, or expelled all serious opposition forces did Castro openly proclaim his commitment to Marxism-Leninism. Sanders has voiced he has a list of dozens of executive orders to be enacted as soon as he's inaugurated. Just to let you folks know, if he has these executive orders, we'll read them first. And we can all nullify and give the big middle finger, especially when it's unconstitutional. How long will it take that President Sanders turn his democratic socialism into communism? It shouldn't take too long. Castro has already laid out the blueprint. Interesting because, Trevor Loudon is an author, filmmaker, and public speaker from New Zealand. So it's good stuff to check out on the Epic Times. Well, we all know the man hates freedom, period. All you gotta do is look at his voting record. Listen to the rhetoric. Looks like designers don't even want him in there. That tells you something. And I'm not crazy about that particular faction as well. If all those people out there believe his hype, you're being bamboozled. The whole thing is when he's a president, they're an elected ambassador, represented by the states, voted by the states, a la Electoral College, no popular vote. And it has to be constitutional, if not void. He's voted for stuff that is illegal, contradicts the contract with the states and the federal government. The states started the federal government in this nation that became the United States, a republic, not a democracy. And yes, socialist programs have been happening at least 150 years before Trump came into power.
Yeah.
You can hear some of his rhetoric too. Read between the lines, folks. The whole thing is, everyone out there is looking for a Lord and Savior, someone to be ruled. I don't buy that, regardless who's in there. To all be sovereign individuals, not numbers. Sanders likes the numbers game. Let's see how many people will kiss his rear end or bend over to get his respect. The man's a fraud, a poser, a tyrannical fool, regardless of party. He's just an example. I treat them all equally, regardless where they come from, what's their political party. When it comes to liberty, it's freedom combined with morality. Period. He's a terrible used car salesman. He needs to go back to his hole because he's contaminating space. I support Notification 2020. That's one of my hashtags, so use it, folks. Don't be shy. Anything you find ludicrous politically, use that hashtag. I recommend it. Yeah, I'm not going to go too crazy. Do something here that came from American Free Press. You have to subscribe, by the way, to it. This one from issue 9 and 10 of this year. It says here, news you have missed. Interesting, but it's about illegal aliens. Truth about illegal aliens cost. A detailed analysis of federal, state, and local social programs by Washington nonprofit Federation for American Immigration Reform, or FAIR, has found that illegal aliens cost U.S. taxpayers a mind-boggling $134.9 billion annually. State and local governments take it on the chin the hardest, paying out $88.9 billion, while the federal government only allocates $45.8 billion. According to FAIR, despite those who say illegal immigrants pay for themselves by paying taxes, government figures show that only about $19 billion is taken in by the feds. Okay, well, hey, you can thank sanctuary cities for that, which are illegal, by the way, and I don't care if they're whiter than me with my same surname. So don't use the ethnic hatred. It's unacceptable. Well, it's interesting here about big cuts in foreign aid plan. President Donald Trump has been rightfully blasted by conservatives for proposing a mind-blowing budget that totals $4.8 trillion for 2021. But there is some good news in it. News commentary website BizPac Review reports that in the new plan, foreign aid will be cut by 21%. An additional $2 billion would be allocated for the protection of the U.S. southern border. Unfortunately, the deficit this year is expected by the Congressional Budget Office to exceed $1 trillion. That's nice about foreign aid. 21%. That certain cut, those certain 21% cuts would be going to Israel as well. So to think about, folks, like I said, Donald Trump is a Zionist, not being anti-Semitic either. Bans don't prevent mass shootings. Hopefully all you folks from March for Our Lives are hearing this. Or Mothers Demand Action, and Charles Schumer fans, Joe Biden fans, Michael Bloomberg holics out there. A new study released by the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health states that there is no evidence assault weapons bans lead to a lower incidence of fatal mass shootings. Democrats across the U.S. have been pushing for a ban on assault weapons as part of their gun control agenda. They recently failed in Virginia, however, thanks to moderate Democrats who jumped ship and voted against a measure that would have barred ownership of rifles like AR-15s in that state. And the truth of the matter is, it will be null and void under their own Commonwealth Constitution. Article 1, Section 1, and of course, Section 13, just to give you a couple. Read Article 1 in its entirety on Virginia's Bill of Rights. It's self-explanatory. Technology killing newspapers. Newspaper executive and Berkshire Hathaway, Inc. Vice Chairman Charles Munger contends that newspapers will go away on the dodo very soon. Technological change is destroying the daily newspapers in America. Munger, 96, said recently at the annual meeting of Daily Journal Corp., the publishing company where he is the chairman, the revenue goes away and the expense remain, and they're all dying. Yeah, sometimes you got to look at those areas as well, which is a shame, but technology is good. Have to enhance. Whatever you do, don't leave all your eggs in one basket, folks, and keep those press machines handy because you never know. Slavery around the world. Liberals regularly slam the United States and our founding fathers for having been involved in slavery, but they never mentioned that the United States stood out as one of the first countries in the world to actually free slaves and outlaw slavery. Yes, because you could say too, I'll just stop from there, because even Thomas Jefferson was trying to write the original Declaration of Independence to free slaves, but they didn't really work out. So in due time, steps were happening. You could thank the abolitionist groups too, like the Quakers. They were fantastic. They were the real badass as far as I'm concerned. But I will continue on here. According to the new investigation by Reuters, released earlier this month, to this day, slavery is still legal in much of the world. More than 40 million people are held in modern slavery, which includes forced labor and forced marriage, according to estimates by the International Labor Organization and the anti-slavery group, the Walk Free Foundation, reports Reuters. There is no criminal law against slavery in 94 countries, almost half of UN states. Could we say hypocrisy to its core? Yes, all you communist sympathizers out there that talk about the founding fathers are racist and all that, can you explain that crap to me? You can't. Alright. This is one thing about real justice for Jussie. Jussie Smollett was indicted on February 11th in Chicago by Special Prosecutor Dan Webb, charging that the Hollywood star faked a hate crime attack on himself back in January 2019 in order to boost his career. Webb announced that Smollett is facing 6 felony court counts of disorderly conduct charges that come from 4 separate false reports he gave to police where he claimed he was the victim of a hate crime, knowing that he was not the victim of a crime. Talk about promotion. Yeah, I hate crime. Buzzword. People wig out. Like every other. Try to use that playbook from Eric Benez's book, Propaganda. Well, it may have backfired on him. However, I will say he's presumed he is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. I'll be very fair. I never really cared for the show Empire anyway. I don't really watch those boring TV shows. Bankrupt cities. Watchdog group Truth in Accounting recently released its 2020 financial state of cities report, revealing that the 75 most populous cities in the U.S. stand fiscally. The shocking analysis reveals that this year, 63 of the biggest cities in the U.S. doesn't have enough money to pay their bills, with their total debt standing at $323 billion. It's no surprise which are the worst offenders. New York City is far away the worst, with $187.6 billion in debt, followed by Chicago with $34.4 billion. Honolulu, with a smaller population, ranks 73rd with $3.3 billion, and Philadelphia is ranked 72nd with $14.2 billion in debt. We're from New York. We have higher standards. And we'll tell it to your government. Their standards are pretty bad, right? No privacy. For more than a half century, the CIA, with the help of West German intelligence, ran the world's largest encryption software firm that was trusted by foreign governments and some of the largest companies in the world until it was exposed a few years ago. Reports the Washington Post, the CIA's control of Swiss company Crypto AG allowed it to read secret communications sent by diplomats and corporate executives all over the world who use specialized equipment to sell them that been doctored by U.S. and German spies. Crypto's clients included Iran, multiple governments in Latin America, India, Pakistan, and even the Vatican. Woo! Always, folks, don't go too crazy with these things, okay? So I always use a little finesse when you do these emails. Don't have to get too technical. Boycott Nike. Here is yet another reason not to buy sneakers from Nike. According to Breitbart, the global shoemaker is adding its name to a letter that vows to fight legislation in Tennessee that would bar biological males from being able to compete against girls in public schools, physical sports competition. Several new bills have been introduced in the Tennessee state legislation to address the problem of boys competing as girls. In particular, HB 1572 and SB 2077 and SB 1736 and HB 1689 are currently being deliberated in legislative committees. Yeah, pretty bad there, huh? How pathetic. To the gender-neutral community. My kid's gender-neutral. Yeah, my kid's mind control. Yay! That's all it is, folks. Propaganda Machine 101. You should be proud for who you are, folks. Don't get this guilt trip. Don't let these parents be fucking dish rags. Excuse my language. I shouldn't use that. But I get a little bit disturbed. Human nature. This is unnatural practice. And I say that out of love. Fairness and competition. On February 12th, the families of 3 high school girls sued the state of Connecticut to bar so-called transgender athletes from being able to compete in girls' sports. The nation will be watching this case closely as a federal court will be forced to decide. In fact, changing gender one day and identifying as a girl means that you can change your sex too. The families of Selena Soleil from Galsbury High School, Chelsea Mitchell from Canton High School, and Alana Smith from Danbury High School are being represented by conservative non-for-profit Alliance Defending Freedom. They contend that biologically male athletes have a physical advantage over biological females in physical sports. It is unfair to allow them the right to compete with girls. The plaintiffs argue that they've been deprived of track titles and even scholarship opportunities. Well, I'm just wondering. It looks like it may have gone through on the state level. You shouldn't take it to a federal court. It should be if they haven't went through the right channel, it should have stayed in Connecticut, the Constitution state, which a lot of those people, political bobbleheads in there, don't believe in that. They believe in a tyrannical state. Just an example. But I believe in this, in all good faith, not condemning. But they shouldn't be in these sports. It's not being a chauvinist or call me biased. Doesn't matter. Is unnatural, human nature. So have. You know what? As far as I'm concerned, have it for transgenders only. Transgender games for transgender people only. That's my solution. What are your thoughts? Well, that is it. To be very frank. Thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download the show through social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or sounds like this interesting, want to check out, whatever you do, please send your correspondence with decorum. I shall leave the show notes on my speaker page. However, if you want to get the information on news you may have missed, you gotta subscribe to, AmericanFreePress.net. I will put that website on there as well. Once again, thank you for your time. Please always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves, keep on spreading love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.